Okay, and then I held up an intertitle that said podcast.
All right, that was pretty good.
Fine.
We
so you
finally
were out.
did.
You were out of stuff.
We
I
finally
wasn't
did
out
that
of
joke.
it. That's the joke everyone's been waiting for me to make
We finally
for
did
6
it.
weeks. I wasn't out of it. I was saving that.
You're out of stuff.
I'm not out of stuff.
You're out of juice.
I could watch me. I could fucking do it right now.
You're like remember that tech company that was like, we made like a great juice pressing machine, Juicero, and then people were like, just squeeze it with my hand, bro.
I just get the packets and I squeeze it with my hand. This is not. I am no mere juicero machine.
No, of course not. How dare I imply that? I never would.
Watch me. I could do this. You must always podcast forward, never backward. But I didn't want to do that.
No, you wanted to hold up a little intertitle that said podcast.
Yeah, and it was funny, and everyone loved it, and they cheered. It was the thing they were waiting for 6 weeks.
I can't hear anything you're saying right now because people are cheering too loud.
Thank you.
And like Joaquin Phoenix is he's holding his thumb like this, he's like, yeah. They're all like, yes, thumbs up.
Fred Heschinger, the new Joaquin Phoenix.
Is that who?
Yeah.
Barry dropped out.
Barry dropped out.
Can I say something?
What?
I'm kind of pro that. I like Barry Keoghan.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe he's like signing on to every project. I maybe am worried about like Jude Law syndrome with this guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like, how about you do 1 to 2 movies a year rather than be like the weirdo in 3 movies or 4 movies every year?
Fred Heschinger also a blankie.
Is he?
Yeah. A listener. But
hello.
Right. In favor of that. But yes. Yes, I mean, Ben is scowling like, why does he listen?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something wrong with it? Did he hit his head very hard?
Yes, unfortunately.
So he's resting in bed.
Yeah.
I just like the idea that hitting your head makes you stupid.
Yeah. Oh, no, always funny. Right, and you forget your name. Barry Keoghan's also a very, very specific performer. Like, there's no one like him.
That's the thing.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Right.
You're putting a whole dollop of like anchovies into the dish.
And there's a lot of
I love anchovies.
A lot of range. He can apply himself in very different ways.
Yes.
But he's not like Jude Law where it was such an obvious gimme of like, just slot him into everything. Let's have him do everything.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And with all respect to Keoghan, I think we all agree Joker was a bit of a bust. There are things he should maybe not do.
I can't be mad at him for that because he didn't have the time or, the necessary runway to do something like to like where I'm like, oh, this is what he came up with.
Correct.
But also like, that's what he came up with.
Yes.
Anyway. Hi, Fred.
Hi, Fred.
Come on, blank check.
This has been the key.
Feel better.
Feel better.
Sorry about your head.
Sleep well.
Please text me Craven Goss.
Yeah, he's playing the chameleon.
He's in Craven. He's playing
the chameleon. Listen, this has been an episode of the Keoghan Cast.
Keoghan Cast.
And now, welcome to Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
Hi, David.
So fast it almost was. You couldn't hear it.
Exactly. I'm Griffin, and then hold up title card.
Funny. This is a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce, baby. And this is a mini-series on the films of Buster Keaton. It is called Podcast Junior, and today we've gotten to our last episode. This series has been focused on the 10 features that Buster Keaton made under Buster Keaton Productions, his independent run, financed by Mr. Skank.
Joe Skank.
That took him from total independence to sort of supervised independence under Metro as part of Skank's position there.
Yeah.
To now finally, these final 2 episodes are going to track his move to MGM.
Yes, the 2 films he directed for MGM before he was then just pushed into being a star there.
We slot you in where we like you.
Right. And his final 2 silent films, correct? Like after this, he is in talkies.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. These are his 2 silent silent comedies.
Uh-huh.
And although Spite Marriage is him dipping a little bit of a toe into sound. Now, right off the bat, Ben has said he thinks that both of these movies stink. Producer Ben.
He didn't like them. I walked in here, Griffin.
Yeah.
On time, of course, 10 a.m.
Okay.
Great job by me.
Let me just say this for the record.
Okay. All right. All right. Go ahead and say it.
I beat you here I had a track record. I think I beat
I think it was maybe 3 or 4.
6.
Wow, he had the number. He was trying with I think.
I can confirm.
It was 6.
It was 6.
Yeah.
It was 6.
Yeah.
And I happened to fall back asleep.
So wait, so the running total is what, like 412 to 6?
Correct. But I'm saying
It's like you're the fucking Washington Generals. You get a couple baskets and you're like,
it fresh.
The General's on a streak here.
I'm just saying, look, I moved. I live 2 blocks away from the studio.
We're just getting their buckets of glitter.
I'm walking distance. I'm saying we might start evening out. We just have to do the show for another 8 years.
You've moved closer.
We do the show for another 8 years. It might even out.
Yeah, you've actually moved closer. Although you've usually lived closer to our studio, but not since we moved.
This is the closest I have ever lived.
Oh, you live very close now.
I live very close.
So close that we really can't be disclosing where this studio is now.
Nope. Ben cut some references out of previous episodes.
Did he? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but I walk in.
Yeah.
Ben's finishing up Spite Marriage.
Okay.
And he's just like, blah. And I was with him I was sort of like, yeah, Spite Marriage
Not
didn't
great.
really light my fire.
No.
Yeah. But then you revealed you didn't like either of these films.
No.
I think Cameraman's a little masterpiece.
He loves Cameraman.
I was relieved to see you agreed with me.
Listen, there's fun stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I understand that in Buster movies, right, he's kind of hitting very similar stories.
Yes.
Sure. You mean types, character types. You don't like his character type in this movie.
I just was not in the mood to deal with smug
So Ben
bullies.
Okay. Ben, can we talk about it on mic?
Yeah,
Let's talk about
it. So Ben is also he's steamed.
Okay.
He's grouchy.
Mad.
Because he got basically upsold on a fancy steak by a waiter at a hip New York restaurant.
I'm sorry.
Corner bar.
So
I'm
he's
sorry.
pissed off, I think, about like all smug sort of,
Thinking
upper crust
better
guys.
than you. They're above you.
Because he
You're
basically
a damn rube.
was at this cool ass place, and the waiter was like, "Well, the cut of beef you really want is the special," and he didn't disclose that
How
the
much
special
it costs,
was
and it
mucho
cost
dinero.
way too much for
Was this
what I
last
got.
night?
Yeah. So I watched this movie, Cameraman, first this morning.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's like this bully jerking around Buster, and I just got so pissed.
I want to break this down for a second.
Please do.
Every one of these movies has some smug bully.
Yeah, there's
who
always
fucks
a
with
rich
Buster.
guy or a
Right.
Alpha
Right.
guy. Yeah.
His problem wasn't, if you said, I hate a cameraman, but in my defense, yesterday, some fucking bewildered cameraman fucked with me on my walk home. I could understand this movie hitting
He was
a
like
nerve.
really specific.
Right, you're supposed to relate to Buster in this movie. The point is you're supposed to hate this smug bully.
I know.
And you're going, I'm too triggered by the smug bully because a waiter got me to buy a more expensive steak last night.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
It makes sense.
Okay.
Look, I'll say this.
Yeah.
I sympathize. I think Ben is the wronged party.
Yeah, sure.
This steak that he got, and yes, it was for the whole table. It's not like he was personally given this steak, but still, I checked the price on it. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you're a waiter, even if you've been told like, oh, don't say that, it's gauche to say the numbers out loud. You might just want to say, but it's an expensive item, or but this is a high end, just so that you can give the opportunity for the person to be like, how much is it?
For what I paid for it, it should have been the fucking opening of Flintstones.
You wanted them to destabilize the table when they dropped it off?
You wanted
over for what I paid.
Yeah, I mean,
you wanted a dinosaur leg,
correct.
essentially.
Yes.
Funny. Look, I know this podcast has already become a 25% syndication of old Doughboys bits.
Sure.
We just rerun old Doughboys bits by us describing them and saying they were good. And now I'm doing one from the episode you and I were on, David.
Yes. Well, wait, which
Italy.
the Italy episode? Which episode was
Italy.
What was the bit?
But it's not even a bit. This is just here's a fucking incredible waiter who got a great ass tip that night. Okay, we're at Italy. We're trying to order a lot of stuff. I'm with Mitch and Weiger for the Doughboys podcast in LA at the Italy. David ate at the New York one, and Mitch was like, "It's truffle season. We should try something with truffles on it, right?" And we were trying to like balance out dishes, and there was like we were gonna get a pasta, and then there was a steak you could add truffles onto. And we tried to order that. And our waiter said,
Psst.
the surcharge on the truffles is itself more expensive than this pasta that has truffles on it. So if you get the truffle pasta instead of that pasta and get the steak minus the truffles, you're saving money.
Right. So here's the thing,
that's how a fucking server.
Here's the thing, and Ben's going to tell you.
Yeah.
But I think his waiter kind of tried to pull that trick of like, look, this extra, it pays for itself in sides.
Yeah.
Was trying to kind of do the like
the sides.
He's like, it comes with fries and a salad. He's like, I mean, it's a good deal.
Right.
He said it was a good
this
deal.
This guy just sounds dishonest.
Should we say how much the steak was?
Yeah, we could say how much it was.
Yeah,
Great.
we're not going to be said. Everyone will unsubscribe. Listen.
Anyway, he didn't want the fancy steak. He got the fancy steak. And now, so if there's any fancy men who are pulling
running
one over,
MGM, being gatekeepers.
Well, so you don't like that part of it either.
Yeah.
You don't like the actual behind the scenes narrative.
And it's the story set in the city, so I really can relate. I can really put myself.
Sure. But you're the Buster in this story.
Correct. Just trying to have a damn steak.
Okay.
Which is fine.
It's fine. Listen, Buster Keaton said signing up with MGM was the greatest mistake of his entire career. It was the thing that kind of killed him.
Absolutely. He is convinced, as it's not like he was completely swindled here. Like his, his business was in decline. Like he kind of needed a raft to jump to.
This is my question. What other options did he really have at this moment?
Let me look at the dossier here. But yes.
Yeah.
Okay, look.
I asked this rhetorically.
Buster is, of course, making feature films independently.
Yes.
Right? They're getting distributed by whoever, but by Metro or MGM or whatever, and UA eventually. But
the key basically
he
is
makes them himself.
And he has his own company. He has his regular crew. He's sort of an autonomous unit.
But
hands the movies over to Skank.
But the films he makes are not produced efficiently, and they are not cheap.
No.
So it's not like he is the reliable old Buster Keaton machine just pumping out movies at X price.
Right.
And they're going to make Y price. Like some of them are hits, some of them are less so.
Yes.
Some of them are made for an okay budget. Some of them cost too much money or take too long to make.
And he's constantly trying to push the medium on technical levels. He's trying to constantly come up with things that people haven't seen before. He's increasingly looking for a sense of verisimilitude that does not come easily or cheaply.
Yes.
And then on top of that, his basic process is like 60% pre-planned, 40% improvised, which is a nightmare to the person writing the checks.
Yeah.
Because they go like, I have no idea what the fuck this is even going to end up being. It's hard to come up with a shooting schedule. It's hard to have an actual budget going in.
So MGM is looking at that and says, well, you're going to make movies for us and they're going to cost about $250,000. Like we're going to put you in a budget category.
They say to him, you will be the third highest paid person on our payroll at our studio.
You're a star.
In our star system, right? You'll be the third highest paid person we have, but it's kind of classic. It feels like such an echo of how these studio execs still talk today, where they were like, we at MGM can solve the Buster Keaton problem.
Yes.
If Buster comes to us, his budgets will be smaller and he'll make 4 movies a year. They were just so confident that they could get this guy on rails, right? This is easy. We can control him.
Right.
We control him and the quality will stay good and people will like the movies. We'll just tell him to be cheaper and more structured and work faster.
So they
just like the writers' love of work will get them to end the strike because they'll be so tired of not. They love being underpaid.
They like making money. They love work.
I don't even know if they like making money. I think that's a lie.
They may not. It's very gauche to make money.
Oh, it sucks. Yeah, what do you spend it on? Some fucking shitty steak?
Yeah, exactly. I should mention it did come with steak sauce.
Oh,
House steak sauce.
Okay, so you made your money back.
You're right.
Because you went off and sold that thing on the street, right?
Yeah.
You took the steak
You flipped
sauce.
it, right?
This is house steak sauce.
Yeah.
So they're saying you're going to make movies around $250,000 and you're going to make 4 a year, not 2 a year, which is what you're currently doing.
Right.
However, Buster moves into MGM and then MGM or him or whoever, someone realizes like 4 a year is unrealistic.
Right.
And so they're like,
let's keep the same output.
Let's go to 2 a year, but if you're going to do 2 a year, your budgets are going to go down.
Yes.
So you're going to have to make these quite cheaply. You can keep some of your crew, but not all of them. Essentially, it's just kind of like, look, the great days for you are over. Like you don't get to just do whatever you want with whoever you want for how long you think you need.
They want to streamline. They want to automate it a little bit, and a big part of it is there's going to be oversight now. You don't just go off and do whatever the fuck you feel like,
Which at a certain point, one wonders, what did MGM even want?
I mean,
but they probably, like you say, they're just like, what do you mean? We're smart. We can fix this.
But it's not just the entertainment industry. You just read these stories constantly of there's a company that is successful, right?
Right.
And then a much larger company buys the company and goes, we think we can reduce costs.
Yeah.
We think we can reduce costs, increase profits.
We see a lot of inefficiency here, but you are still Buster Keaton, so we can still make money off of you.
Right. They go, we can just make this cheaper and more profitable. And then within a year, they go, suddenly this is not making money for us. And you're like, well, this was working before you entered the picture. Even if it didn't work every single time.
It wasn't totally working.
It evens out.
But the other thing, of course, with Buster is, even if he hadn't gone to MGM.
Yes.
The talkies are coming.
Totally.
Everything's about to change. Like, who knows what would have awaited
This is my big question, is just like, he needed to go to a studio at this point.
Most likely.
Right? Skank was not re-upping.
Yeah, no, unless he could find some other rich guy to, essentially front him money in exchange for the hopes of profit. Like,
right.
Yeah,
which
obviously.
Was unlikely. What he should have done was, and he was never much of a businessman, he should have done what Chaplin had done 10 years earlier. He needed to form a United Artists, right?
Or stick with the existing United Artists and, but I don't live in 1928.
I don't either.
So I don't know what the landscape is or whatever.
Look, he wasn't a mogul, and he also didn't think of himself as an artist. He thought of himself as a worker, right?
But then again, he was always trying stuff and taking.
Oh, totally. But it's the fascinating dichotomy with him. But I don't know if he would have been in a better position going to any other studio. It's hard to say. I'm not knowledgeable enough.
I have no idea. Obviously, MGM is sort of the king studio, then, and really is for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
But certainly in the days of Louis Mayer.
I kind of think a variation of this fate would have befallen him at this point.
Now, there's some other issues. He doesn't play well with others, really. Yeah. He doesn't want to live on the lot.
Right.
So he moves into like a bungalow that's kind of off the lot. Right. Doesn't go into the studio. He doesn't interact with Louis Mayer.
Which they put their foot down and said, like, you're moving into a fucking dressing room. Everything he tried to do was basically like, I'm living off campus. Right. He's like, sort of like, I'm not part of this community. He just was such an independently minded guy, and he liked his own crew and whatever. And he said,
then you're not going to get what you want if you're not, rubbing the shoulders of the fancy man.
So I think he just immediately set the wrong tone with them, and he goes like, here's how it works. You give me my unit, have a payroll of guys. I have my cameramen, I have my gag writers, I have my prop makers, and we're just working on stuff constantly. And they're like, that's not how this works. You work with our guys we have under employ. You're sharing resources across a studio.
Sure. So Irving Thalberg, who is the wunderkind head of production at MGM, he's only in his early 20s.
Yes.
You can read about him. It is an incredible tale. He is put in charge of Keaton. Set up his first movie, please. His first proposal is a sort of Charles Lindbergh-esque story of a pilot doing a transatlantic flight with a fading burlesque beauty queen. They wanted Marie Dressler. Buster doesn't like that story, kind of likes the idea of working with Marie Dressler, pitches a story back that's like Steamboat Bill Jr., except she's like the raggedy old aunt rather than the mean uncle character.
Okay.
I mean, the not mean uncle, the, grizzled dad character, right? Set it during the Civil War, set it on like a wagon train. And again, I'm like Buster the weakling, Buster the, sort of silly boy. And we're going across the prairie, and stuff happens. Thalberg thinks about it. Keaton kind of knows. He's not into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then they have a new idea. Okay. What if instead of, let's go back to that sort of idea, but what if he's a cameraman instead of like a pilot? The original concept was still going to have a transatlantic flight.
Yes. Wasn't there also a whole thing where he got involved with the mob? There was sort of a mistaken identity thing. I mean, everything I was reading was that they kind of were pitching a lot of plot to him, and he was sort of like, and this is an early moment.
Gangsters, and Keaton keeps being like, no, like
throwing
get
stuff
all
out.
That out of here.
Right,
like, we have to strip this down.
Right, because his whole thing was just like, I'm now working with guys who have no experience in comedy, who think they can tell me what's going to be funny. They think they know what sounds like a funny setup for a Buster Keaton movie. And I know in practical reality, you want this thing as streamlined as possible. You want as little narrative fat as possible. You want room to discover gags.
I'm going to read this Buster quote to you because it is so devastatingly good. Thalberg was a fine judge of light comedy and farce, appreciated good slapstick whenever he saw it on screen. No truck driver ever guffawed louder at my better sight gags than that fragile intellectual boy genius. That's Thalberg.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, he lacked the true low comedy mind, which is sort of what you're saying, right? Like any man who must concern himself with mass production, he was seeking a pattern, a format. Slapstick comedy has a format, but, he's basically, Buster's like, he doesn't understand.
It's like math.
Yes. You know, the simplicity of that.
You see the geometry of how the thing is going to work, which is, look, there are very few executives, high-level studio people who are genuinely creative, and even fewer who are funny and understand how comedy works.
But they make the most money
in every era.
And so they're obviously the
indispensable
best people.
Indispensable.
Right. But eventually, whatever. This all gets hammered into the cameraman is the idea. And so they do start working on drafts of the script. And all these MGM creme de la creme writers come in. And Keaton is basically like 22 people at one point, like we're weighing on to the script, right? And they would keep complicating the plot. Gangsters, Salvation Army street bands, Tammany Hall politicians, longshoremen, and kind of like the sound of this one, lady gem thieves.
Cool.
I mean, maybe bring in one lady gem thief.
Yes.
And then the executives like, look, it's the classic tale.
Yes.
Too many kids, chefs in the soup, or whatever.
I think the difference for me is that Cameraman feels like him trying so hard to stand his ground in the face of all this meddling that what comes out of it is like such a simple, streamlined, focused movie.
Right.
Because he really has to fight for what he wants and like narrow in on his vision. Whereas, and not to jump ahead, but it's a relative success. It is well received.
Yeah, the movie actually
MGM likes it. Right. And I think he goes, great. So I've proven myself. They'll give me more leash on the next one. And instead they tighten the leash. And the second he feels the leash tighten on Spite Marriage, it's like he's done. Right? It's just, you just feel that he just gives up. And then it goes on to his MGM talkie career after this, where it's just like the light is kind of gone from his eyes.
He's drinking more. Right. He's not creatively involved.
Yes, to skip ahead here.
But no. Okay,
Edward Sedgwick is the director they assign him for these two films, who's a guy who comes from a very similar background to him. Was also part of a vaudeville act with his family growing up, has been on stage since he was a child, transition of being behind the scenes, is kind of a Roscoe Arbuckle type physically, is much taller and bigger than him.
Apparently they also both they were both baseball buffs.
Yes.
They bonded over that.
So there's like this beauty where you're like, this feels like for all these years where even Skank would assign him some new director who he would always fight with and push out, he's finally got a guy to kind of share the chair with who he really is simpatico with and who gets it and isn't fighting,
Yeah, I think they didn't mind. They shot it in New York. I think that was complicated.
There
then,
was like a week of New York shooting, and then I think the sound stages were in LA.
Right. But I think they enjoyed it. 5-day New York shoot.
Where there's parades all the time in those days.
Every day.
Dude, you know how in New York if you walk up Broadway, sort of from Wall Street, there's this like there are these plaques, kind of like Hollywood Walk of Fame style, of every ticker tape parade there ever was.
The parade Walk of Fame.
And like there's like an embedded plaque in the sidewalk for every single ticker tape parade, like in ascending order.
Okay.
And I loved it. I used to walk up. I forget what there's a name for what the Avenue of Heroes or whatever. They used to fucking throw one of those every other week.
Yeah.
Because like, at a certain point, you hit like the 80s, and then it's basically like, did a team win a championship? They got a ticker tape parade.
Sure.
That's it. You know, it used to be like, I don't know, some guy like did a great job cleaning a building, and they'd be like, come on.
Yeah, but also,
we have so much ticker tape we got to get rid of.
No one had a Roku. What else were you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just fucking stay home and binge Never Have I Ever. We got another parade? Great. That gives me something.
It's just so funny. Like there were like 7 a year.
Yes.
Now it's like basically just like the New York Giants. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So ticker tape is the printout.
Yeah, from the stocks.
From the stock ticker.
They had all this fucking paper. They had to get rid of it somehow. So, you know,
they rip it up.
The president of Tunisia.
It's like the confetti. Yeah.
If the president of Tunisia came this year, we'd just kind of be like, yeah, sure. Bathrooms are over there, buddy. In 1961, it was like, clear the streets.
We should set a standard.
There will be no cars.
We should set a standard. We should start throwing a ticker tape parade every time we release a new episode.
We gave the New York Mets a ticker tape parade for entering the National League in 1962. They hadn't even played a game yet.
They could use all the encouragement they could get.
Exactly.
Why not send them off in good fashion?
I swear to God.
Have a good season. They used to like, if someone like took a shit without needing to wipe, they would throw them a ticker tape parade.
Anyway, look, I support all ticker tape parades. To be clear, I support the president of Tunisia, unless he was bad. Let me click on him.
An interesting anecdote.
This is a long Wikipedia page. I don't know if I can weigh in.
Buster was still so fucking famous and iconic at this moment.
Of course.
He's sort of like right at the bell curve where his fame's about
he's a national name.
Yes. Chaplin and Harold Lloyd, as I've pointed out in the past, both had characters who involved a sort of disguise. Their persona on screen did not look like them in daily life.
Yes.
Harold Lloyd, when he took the glasses off and changed, it was like a Clark Kent Superman.
Same with Chaplin, of course.
Chaplin has the fucking mustache.
He doesn't have the mustache
dyes his hair and all this shit, right?
He would put the bowler hat on his feet. You know, completely different vibe.
2 bowler hats. Or both feet in one hat. He'd hop around. Hat.
Yep, he'd hop around. Or he'd slide.
They go to film a couple days in New York, and Cedric was like, it was impossible.
Yes. Hey, Keaton.
Yeah. People
were yelling it from the windows.
And you're not
again, like you said, there's no Roku.
Yes.
People are bored.
Right. And there's also there's no
Pluto TV.
There's no sound, right? They're not fucking up the takes with the sound, but they're reacting so wild. They're like swarming him. They're fucking up the shots.
Right.
And they were like, there was no way for him to disguise himself. He's Buster Keaton all the time. That's exactly what he looks like.
Griffin, this episode is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from around the globe.
We love to see it. Wait a second.
Iconic directors, emerging auteurs, always something new to discover. Who's at the door? Hello, Creek. The cow! The Cineast cow!
Wow, David, that's offensive.
Oh, is this a different cow?
Yeah, it's Brown Eyes story. Go
no!
West. You
my prejudice exposed.
Look alike? We have a genuine movie star in the studio. How often does that happen? A cow that is, I guess, 115 years.
A cow that has solved aging.
That's rude to say to her face.
All right, hi Brown Eyes, what's up? It's a moo.
Okay.
Oh, wait a second. He said movie.
What, only one cow can be a cineast? You're misgendering her. You got her name wrong. You say they all look the same, and you think that only one cow in the world can like movies. Mubi is a hand-curated streaming service that makes it easy for anyone to become a cinephile.
You're right.
You shouldn't be such a gatekeeper, David.
They also have a new series called Pride Unprejudiced, which is a series about LGBTQ cinema. I've got lots of movies on there, including Todd Haynes' Velvet Goldmine. They've got a movie exclusive. This movie, Arribada, I think it's a short film about indigenous trans women in Colombia. They have Great Freedom, a heartrending drama about queer history in post-war Germany. And Maurice, which if you've never seen,
I know it's a big blind spot for me.
That's on Mubi.com.
Look, obviously,
Cow, any take on that? But anyway, yeah, Mubi, Cineast Cow, Pride Unprejudiced. Look, it's all great stuff at Mubi.com.
Obviously, Mubi also does their own releasing now.
Yeah. They got ads in the subway. Did you see that?
Yeah. Decision to Leave coming up very shortly on this pod in the next miniseries. That's your place to watch it.
It sure is.
Yeah. Also, I recently saw they put up Inspector Ike, which is a really good movie to come out of the sort of emerging micro-budget New York comedy scene, this interesting wave of if studios aren't making comedies anymore.
Wow. Do you know what they put up today?
What?
Seitan Tango.
Ooh.
So if you want a long one,
Quick watch.
Look, you can try Mubi for free for 30 days at mubi.com/blankcheck. That's mubi.com/blankcheck for a whole month of great cinema for free.
Okay, you need to check yourself, David.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
Yesterday, I got out of the subway.
All your troubles were so far away.
Well, I suppose so. I get on a bike, and I'm biking through Park Slope home.
Okay.
Brooklyn neighborhood. And I'm going up a street, and then I see, there's a film crew on this street.
Okay.
But the lane's not closed.
Mm-hmm.
I keep going. Pete Davidson, America's funniest man.
Of course.
America's most beloved comedian.
Yeah.
Is shooting something in front of an ice cream truck. Is it an ad? Is it, who knows what it is? But it's Pete Davidson, just him, and like a guy with a camera.
Okay.
And I will admit, somewhat embarrassingly, that as I biked by, I went, "Hey, Pete," just because I thought it was funny to do that.
Wow.
Usually I don't care about celebrities at all, but I was just kind of like, this is funny. And I also knew I was moving, so I would really just whiz by.
Yeah.
So I said, "Hey, Pete."
How do you look?
Who I don't know. He looked like Pete Davidson. Regular.
Yeah. Exactly like Pete Davidson.
Yep.
He's kind of hot.
He's kind of hot, but also you're kind of like, are you sick?
Yeah.
That's the Pete Davidson look.
Yeah. No one else looks like him.
Or do you have Lyme disease?
First season of
fine, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first season of The Tick.
Yeah.
We filmed a lot in the streets of New York.
Yeah.
Filming in New York is expensive and difficult, but we thought we thought good production value, whatever, right?
It does look cool.
Yeah. Season 2, folks might notice there is there's very little exterior work, and where there is exterior work is in very kind of desolate, far out areas.
Right. In season 2, mostly you're in the base, the headquarters.
Right. And when we were like outdoors, we were like under a bridge or in like an alley or something. And it was because we would film so much in the streets of Harlem in the first season, and takes would get fucked up by people walking by and going, "Hey, Tick."
I do it. Hey, Tick.
It was that though. It's exactly what you said. Like people would just bike by and they go like, "Hey, Tick, looking good." And the show had not aired yet. It was just people knew the iconography from the past versions.
It's that cartoon.
But it was like, we're filming episode 2 where no one should know that he exists.
Right.
And the amount of takes that were blown by that, it was insane how often it would happen.
And you can't even be like, "Hey, don't do that. The guy's already gone."
Yeah.
Biked off.
Immediately. Just a bunch of fucking David Sims going, "Hey, Pete."
They were filming Law and Order on my street recently, and I was so tempted. It was like an early morning shoot. I was so tempted before leaving the house for the day to just have the Law and Order theme blasting out the window on a loop, on repeat, and just ruin their shoot.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. There was one time I saw when Jerry Orbach was still on the show.
Legend.
He was filming a scene, and a bunch of kids rode their bikes in front of the camera and then stopped and went, "Yo, you're the guy from Law and Order."
Hey, man.
And he went, "Ha, yes, I am." And it was the most charming thing I've ever.
He's the best.
He responded with like sort of Lumiere-esque.
As he should. He's the greatest of them
Yes,
all.
I
He
am.
might be the greatest New Yorker.
Yeah.
He has a block named after him, which I
Yes.
think is deserved.
Jerry Orbach Way?
Yeah, probably. It's
Yeah.
usually a way.
Yeah.
It's up in Hell's Kitchen because he was,
I've
Broadway
talked
legend.
about my fucking brother's Jerry Orbach bit.
Yes, we can't talk about this. We
We're
have
not
to talk
going
about
to.
the
It exists in the
cameraman.
archives.
All right. As you say, yes.
Yeah.
When Harold Lloyd removed his glasses, he melted into a crowd. Buster Keaton, that old stone face, everyone wanted a piece of it.
Yeah.
Then they go to LA. They shoot for 33 days. MGM is hopeful that will be chill. But, Buster's not used to their kind of thing. As he says, you had to requisition a toothpick in triplicate.
Yes.
Everyone's hassling me. It seems like it's just a little stressful. A lot of clashes with the studio.
Yeah, but it was.
Everything.
I think this one's a little bit of a like pressure creating diamonds thing, where it's like he had it in him one time to fight against this to get what he wanted.
But went way over schedule. But maybe the most iconic sequence in this movie, I would say,
Uh-huh.
is the changing room sequence, right?
Yes.
He's stuck. It's a simple sequence. He's
Yeah.
stuck in a changing room with a big fella.
Couldn't get
He's
more
a little fella.
Right.
They keep bumping into each other.
He reuses this in What No Beer. I referenced in...
What? No beer?
I'm sorry. In what? No beer? He redoes this exact sequence in a voting booth. A polling booth.
Clever, sure.
And I even feel like later in his career, when he's doing a lot of TV segments and things like this became one of his routines.
Right.
I'm trapped in a tiny
Classic.
space with another guy. But this one, yes, is incredible. And it's like an absolute, why wouldn't we just do this?
It was invented on the spot by Keaton and Sedgwick.
Yes.
And a couple of writers, Clyde Bruckman and Lou Lipton.
Yeah.
Classic Keaton writers. So like some of this stuff, they're coming up with on the day.
This is what I love about this movie is it feels like it does not have the big sequences. It does not have the big movements of his other films in the same kind of way by and large. It's just sort of ingenuity of in every very basic low stakes situation. What's the funniest thing I come up with right now?
They were hoping the film would cost $250.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up costing $362. So, not perfect.
It makes about $750.
It made $800,000 worldwide.
Big ass hit.
More money in foreign markets. So he's turning into a bit of a Sly Stallone.
He is.
But you're getting less of that money back, probably.
Yeah.
Wasn't a bomb, but the profits were not huge for MGM.
Right.
Thalberg did think it was hilarious.
Thalberg, in the years after, would screen this to his comedy writers to say, here is a perfectly structured comedy, study this.
Right. So
he used it as a teaching tool so much they wore out the print they had.
Wow. That's cool.
And this was a big one that was considered lost for a while.
Yes.
This was an actual lost film, especially because MGM had this huge fire that destroyed a lot of their films in the 50s. And this was one of the films presumed to be lost then. And then there was a combination of they ended up finding a print in France,
a damaged print in France,
yes.
and then another higher quality print somewhere else. And
over the
many
years they've
later,
combined prints.
They've put them together.
Right. It was incomplete for a while. Now I think we pretty much have all of it. But the other wild thing is there was
about 8 reels, 70 minutes.
The best print I think they found in France was missing one segment, and it was because they had repurposed it for some like MGM package film. And when they did that, they literally took that section out.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Don't bother copying
who's going to watch this whole fucking thing again? Yeah.
So the cameraman.
Yes.
Buster is, at the beginning of the film, a tintype photographer. And he has a crush on his secretary who works for MGM.
The setup is so simple. You start with really exciting newsreel photographers on the front lines of the war, right? And you're showing this is the kind of photography we're used to seeing play before our pictures, our A pictures, right? You go, then there's another type of cameraman. And here he is, this lowly guy in the middle of the city street asking for a dime to take someone's portrait.
Right.
On essentially a tin ashtray.
Right.
He catches the eyes of a pretty woman. I think it's another thing I like about this movie. And I will admit, a lot of my fondness for this film is this was as I think I said in our first episode, this was the activator movie for me.
Right.
This was the one I caught on TCM that turned me on to Buster. So it holds a soft spot in my heart because it's the one that made him click for me.
I said it stunk.
No, it's fine. I don't think it's the best one, but I think it's obviously his last great movie.
Yes.
And I do think it's in the top tier.
Now I have, and I'm sure you have not, I've not seen like his educational shorts that he made later.
I've seen some of them. I haven't seen everything he's done, but I've watched.
But that's really all. And then he did a few like weird European.
He did a
comedies.
run at Columbia.
Yeah.
He did a run the educational picture shorts. I mean, what? There's like.
But the Columbia ones, he's never a director and rarely a writer, right?
Yes.
The educational shorts, those are shorts, obviously.
The Railroaders, his final thing, which he did for Canada. It was a campaign to promote their own railroads, I believe.
He also
their train lines. And that one's actually really fun. It's him. He's very old, but he's still got his ingenuity.
Yeah.
And it's called The Railroader. It's like 30 minutes or whatever. But then there's an amazing 1-hour documentary called like Buster Keaton Rides Again that is watching the process of him generating bits.
That's cool.
And I highly recommend watching that. It was just re-released on Blu-ray. Yeah. But I think it's out there on the internet.
But yeah, okay. But wait, the cameraman. He wants to impress this lady. So he buys a film camera for all his money.
He sees her in the crowd. Who is she? He follows after her. She finds out she's the secretary at a newsreel company.
MGM. It's MGM.
It's MGM. There's this smug asshole, the type of guy who'd upcharge you on a steak.
Right. The smug asshole with a big ribeye on a platter.
Yes.
Right. With fries and steak sauce.
Yeah.
And burpees.
Right. You're basically making a profit at that point.
And look,
So
the ice
mad.
in this water ain't free, but we're giving it to you for free.
I mean, I guess I got some bread.
And
too.
they were willing to lift the chair tax, right? Because usually they charge for
They
the
paid
seat.
for those chairs, Ben.
Yeah.
No,
What do
the
you
chair
think,
tax is
magic
built
those
into
chairs
the
out of
bill.
existence. Yeah, right.
I mean, yes, right.
Did they include air conditioning on your check at the end of
Was the AC on?
The AC was not on.
It was kind of a cool night.
It was a cool
Okay,
night.
Cool
sure,
night last
sure,
night.
sure.
Yeah. Kind of in the 50s. You know.
They charged us a courtesy fee, and that they were sort of nice.
Doesn't sound like they were that nice.
They weren't at all.
Okay, all right. So there's a meanie.
Yeah, but here's a thing I love about this movie. She's immediately pretty charmed by him, right?
Yes.
There isn't the sort of challenge of
She's encouraging. She likes him. Yes.
she's giving him tips the whole movie.
Yes.
There's this feeling of unlike a lot of the Buster movies where there's sort of an ultimatum thrown at him, the other guy really wedges himself in the center. There's some authority figure, a father, a boss, the girl's father, whatever it is, that demands that he do a thing to prove himself. Or in the worst Buster movies, I think it is the woman demands the thing and it makes the female character less likable when she's that much of a status obsessed sort of, what have you.
Right.
I like in this that she's kind of immediately charmed by him. And he just feels like, at first, I should do this to impress her. And then I think he really kind of likes it. He's doing this out of the joy of doing this, the discovery of doing this. I think this movie is in so many ways Buster making a film about his relationship to filmmaking, the discovery of it, and his experimentation with what you can do as a medium. And every time he fucks up, she kind of pulls him over and goes like, do this.
Right.
I'm giving you the inside track.
She's
I'm
nice.
helping you out. I think she's really sweet.
She's very sweet.
Yes.
Buster is not good
No.
at his job.
He fucks everything up.
He's always double exposed. I mean, look, also, it's hard. This is 20s film camera shit. Like, this is very technical.
But we've been doing this miniseries now for 6 weeks, right?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Breaking down, how do you pull off these insane shots?
How do you do it?
How do you do it, right? You have this sequence where he comes back with his first role he shot, and they screen it in the screening room for the head of the MGM newsreel company, and they all laugh at how bad it is.
Right.
And everything you're showing is basically one of the tricks that Buster has used to create one of his most famous sequences.
'Cause it's a lot of double exposure stuff and things like that.
It's double
Right,
exposure.
right.
It's things being cranked backwards.
Right. Yeah, right. But of course, that ain't how you shoot a newsreel.
No,
You want
but-
just the facts, Jack.
But this is what I'm saying. The vaguely kind of like autobiographical memoir-y quality to the film is it's sort of like all those special effects in the early days, the pre-digital days of film, came about basically by people discovering things by accident.
They would mess stuff up, and
you
you're
go,
right.
wait a
And they'd be
second,
like,
that's a
"Whoa,
weird
interesting
effect.
Right,
Interesting.
right.
If you fuck it up on purpose, if you don't let this part of the image get exposed, right? I do think there's something here to like this character is more hapless than the actual Buster Keaton, the director, but it's like he's by hook and by crook, by mistake and by chance, learning the mechanics of what a camera can do.
I also think
I'm trying to win Ben over on this movie.
he's very fun toting the camera. Like it just lends to like hapless, harried Buster, right? That he's got this big fucking thing he's lugging around on his back. You're with him. Like he's a good hardworking boy who doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
He
and
rides
it's
the
just
fire
like-
truck, he goes to the baseball game.
This is how comedic. Well, we're not gonna breeze through these things that quickly.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
This is how comedically resourceful he is, though. Is he's just like, if I have to carry this camera with me in every scene, I will find something funny to do with it.
Okay, well then
The tripod's got 3 legs.
yes.
It's long. It's heavy. Anytime he's trying to talk to someone, he gets
Yeah,
entangled
that's
in something.
Right, that's what I'm
else.
saying. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right. And
Okay,
then-
well, come on. Then the first thing is the fire, right? That's the
Yes.
the warehouse is on fire or whatever.
Yeah.
And so come on, let's talk about some of these scenes, right?
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
the joke there is that just he rides the fire truck home, right? Like,
Correct, he
yes,
misses it.
Good joke.
he fucks it up. Yeah.
Right.
The baseball scene is really sweet because this is also like him. He gets there the wrong day. It's an away game.
Yes.
He shows up to an empty Yankee Stadium.
It is. I was about to say, what's the stadium?
It
is
is.
it Yankee Stadium? Like old Yankee Stadium.
Right. I mean, this is one of the only. Oh yeah, because now
Well, there's been 3, I believe, Yankee stadiums. Yes, I think this is old. This is the house that Ruth built. This is
No, he just
there's no one there.
Decides to play baseball by himself. It is a thing that I think the other Buster Keaton characters don't necessarily ever display, which is this guy has creativity, right?
Right.
This is the story of like an artist being activated.
Not just a chump.
Right.
He will try to find the sort of hard way around it or whatever.
But there's some combination of he is doing this for his own amusement, right? But then also he's like trying to find something worthwhile to film.
Right.
And here is this like incredibly well-observed pantomime of every player in a baseball game.
And he's just doing it all. It's
trying to catch people stealing bases.
It's also just clever way to use the location. Like it just looks cool.
I just think there's something very kind of sweet and poetic to it. I will say this. Were you watching the Criterion release of this? How did you watch this film?
No, I rented it on iTunes.
Oh,
I didn't
you
even
did?
know it was on Criterion.
So then I'll say this. There's a Criterion disc of this that has Spite Marriage as a special feature. The iTunes version of it, I don't understand. I don't know why this happened. These 2 films are the only Buster Silents that are not in the public domain.
Because they're actually owned by MGM.
Right.
And they're also, they're not 100 years old.
28 or 29?
Yeah, they're 28. Or this is 28, maybe Spite Marriage is 29. Yeah.
So
there is a Criterion disc.
Correct. That is copyrighted by Warner Brothers. Previously, it was on a DVD that was part of the Turner Classic Movie Presents series. That one had the score that I believe is now on the iTunes version.
I had a very nice score.
I love that score so fucking much. It's by a guy named Arthur Freed, who was part of Frank Zappa's band, Ben. And has in later years, and did a lot of production, and has in later years done a handful of silent film scores. And this one is so good, and for whatever reason, is not on the Criterion release. And the Criterion release score is good, and it's a full orchestral score. But there's something very charming and kind of like bittersweet and a little lonely about that score. And I do think there's something to like the baseball game, the isolation of it, the loneliness of it. But also the sweetness of just like this is a guy who lives in his own head. It feels like you're watching Buster Keaton generate material.
Yeah.
This character without having aspirations to be a performer, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same way he talks about how he'd come up with bits when he goes to a space and goes, well, what could we do in this environment? Here he is as an empty baseball field. What's he going to do? He's going to pretend to be every ball player.
And the idea is that in post, it will all come together to look like an actual baseball game.
Cut it together.
Kind of. I mean,
here's
look,
a guy pitching. Here's a guy running.
In a suit?
No, it doesn't make any sense. There's no audience. Like,
they're never going to buy it. It's never going to work. But
he's just trying.
The point. It's like he's in the wrong medium in a way, right? Like it's like your job is to document what's going on.
Right.
He doesn't think of things literally.
Mm-hmm. The next sequence there is a version of this on YouTube that I found, is him showing the footage to the people at MGM,
yes.
And I do love the gag of like the street scene with like a battleship.
Yes, but this is what I'm saying. It's like this beautiful double exposure where you're like, that's kind of a great special effect,
right?
And then there's the person jumping from the pool onto the diving board.
Yes, and then there's
in
like
reverse.
Quadruple footage of cars or whatever where he's like, I don't know, done the lenses wrong.
These are all tricks we have seen him employ purposefully, you know? Him doing the baseball game is like him doing the Playhouse short where he's everyone on stage.
And then, he's discouraged, he's sad.
Everyone in the room's laughing.
They're all laughing at him. They're all having a laugh.
But she's there.
Yeah.
And she's encouraging.
You got to crank forward.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, look, you tried.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people wouldn't try.
Right.
And she, he wants to ask her out, and she's like, got a date basically,
yes.
but she's still like, call me.
Right.
And then you have the whole sequence where he's like smashing open the wall looking for money and stuff like that.
Right. He's got the piggy bank he can't open.
Right.
Right. Right. He tries to hold it up against the wall and hammer it in. And it just gets stuck in the wall. But then you also have she calls right downstairs,
Yes.
There's like one
he goes down the staircases, that crazy shot.
He's got this insane Wes Anderson like dollhouse
4 flights.
set.
Yeah.
Right, which is just a classic Buster thing where he's like, here's what we're gonna do. Build 4 real stories.
Yeah.
Exposed.
It looks cool, but it is
unbelievable.
10 seconds of non-comedic footage. Like
it's longer than that because the whole bit is that he like runs downstairs. He keeps overshooting.
And he goes like
he gets so much momentum in his running that he keeps on missing the flight.
The gag of him going to the roof and then walking up the roof, like stairs. That's funny.
I think it's incredibly good, but it's amazing. It is an expensive gag. You have to build an insane set to make this work because he understands it's only funny if it's continuous. The second you have to cut every time he goes up a new floor, it's not going to work.
This all just seems very stressful back then, though.
Yeah.
Having to wait by the phone.
Oh, a nightmare.
So much better.
It would be like at the store, like 3 blocks away, you know?
Yes. Well, and then he finally picks up the phone. It's her saying her date canceled. She could hang out. He doesn't even listen to the end of her sentence.
Right. He just runs across.
So by the time she's done with the sentence, he's behind her and he says, sorry, I'm late.
Right. Which is funny.
That's funny.
He's really sweet. So they, of course, have a nice afternoon date at the swimming pool.
Yes, right. First, there's some business with the old ladies.
Yes.
Because she's at like a rooming house or whatever.
Right.
She's like a
what is it, like an SRO or
a nice young single woman.
We can't forget the bus ride either.
Then they get on the bus.
Right. Well, and also all the other women are like fawning over him.
Falling all over.
So then this what do you call it? What do you call this sort of old lady who looks over a lady's house?
Matron.
The matron.
I think an old marm.
The whole idea was like, if you're a single young woman, you got to be living in a place where you're not going to get into any trouble, right? And they can, if there's a gentleman caller, he'll come into the drawing room, and it'll all be formal. He's not going to like come knock on your bedroom door.
This just
to knock you up.
It feels like to me the only Buster movie where they kind of acknowledge that he's hot. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact,
I guess you're
not to a silly degree. And
no, but like that ladies want Buster.
He's so low status in his energy and he's so oblivious, but there's like when he makes like eye contact with the woman in the crowd, she immediately catches him.
Obviously in 7 Chances, the ladies want Buster, but they want his money.
They want it for his money.
Yeah.
I think in this, there's this, without him seeing cocky, it's like this thing of like everyone is throwing themselves at him.
Right. He only has eyes for what's her name? Sally.
Yes. But yes, he ends up on the roof of the bus.
You got bus business and then the swimming pool, or what do we call this? The the baths.
Yes.
Right. It's the city plunge, right?
Right.
Follows her into the ladies' room.
Big mistake.
Renting a bathing suit.
Terrible.
Guys.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Hygiene, I guess, was different then.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I guess it was a bit of a luxury to own a bathing suit because it's like I don't know. I don't know why.
I don't know.
The sort of like sociology of like public bathing and the way it changed is interesting because obviously man has gone in water since time immemorial, right?
Yeah.
But like then all the like the Victorian bathing machines, about that, where they would like build a house in the water.
Okay.
So you could like get in the water without anyone seeing you.
That's insane.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, so like obviously, yes, you may have to remove some clothes. You're probably still wearing like a top to bottom brown, like bathing suit. But like no one has to see that because your bathing house is on the water and has walls.
A little cabana.
Yes.
Sort of weird. Okay.
Yes, insanity. But this is like, he goes to these lockers where I guess it's just, come one, come all. So he gets in there and then another guy just sort of, barges in with him.
And Sedgwick wanted to play the guy in the dressing room.
Sedgwick kind of looks like when I see pictures of him, he looks like this guy. More of a husky,
He was like 6'1", 300 pounds. Right. And Buster said, the guy needs to be the same height as me because he can be a little bit rough. But if he's too much taller than me, people are going to think the guy's going to knock me out.
Right.
This guy can't be like that much of a physical threat to me. He can just seem a little bit tougher.
Look, the guy's a little mean because Buster says, this is my dressing room. And the guy says, shut up or it'll be your coffin.
Yes.
So he's going right to murder.
But I also like that it's sort of
He's
this.
not even like, I'll give you a black eye.
No,
He's
no.
like, your final resting place is this fucking dressing room.
I think this guy was like, he was the locations manager. He was a crew member.
Okay.
He was not a performer.
Sure.
He was a crew member. And the thing I like is that it's just sort of this like stereotype of a New Yorker where he's like, excuse me, I'm already in here. And the guy sort of has the attitude of like, yeah, well, I walked in here and I'm too busy to get out of here. You just got to fucking live with it.
And also, Buster's doing all the finesse comedy. This guy's just, elbows and,
That's what's remarkable about it is like he just told the guy, undress and I will do comedy around you. Right. But then, of course, they're getting their clothing items like caught
Buster
up on
kind
each
of
other.
like getting on his back is one of the funniest parts.
It's so good.
It is. I mean, obviously, like I said, I do think this is like the whole thing with these Buster movies is I'd seen some of them and others I would be like, well, I know about that bit.
You know that bit. Right.
Like the avalanche or things like that, and like this one, yes, the changing room is kind of the most famous camera.
Yeah, and once again, he reuses this for the rest of his career.
Once again, just want to shout out Buster. Great bod, total cutie.
This is the scene. This is the scene when he starts to pull up his tank top, and you're like, "Fucking shredded."
No shit, he was shredded. The guy was working like crazy and was like doing all this athletic stuff.
But I think usually he tries to hide it, and then you look at this, and you're like, "Yeah, he's like built like fucking Spider-Man. He is like zero body fat."
He'd probably be a good Spider-Man.
He'd be a great. Oh my god. 1940s Buster Keaton.
Should we bring back this kind of bathing suit, like the dude in the kind of the old-timey wrestler, jumpsuity kind of thing, like with suspenders?
David, if you ever see me on the beach, I'm wearing fucking this. No one's ever seeing my nipples.
Why not?
They suck.
Get him out.
No. I'll go shirtless with pasties on.
That is so disturbing. That is a very disturbing visual.
Chicken cutlets.
And then, we're in the baths.
Yeah.
There's the thing where he swims like kind of onto the platform you get in on. So he's kind of swimming in place. That's pretty funny.
Yes.
These baths are pretty cool. They have like a fountain.
Yeah.
Kind of fancy bath.
They're trying to play catch. And there's this group of fucking jerks.
A bunch of steak sellers.
Who are like, look at this little guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Fuck him. I'm going to catch the ball.
Yeah,
this is my girl.
They're trying to play catch, and these guys keep like getting in the way.
This is my girl now.
Right. There's some diving.
Ben slamming his fist in anger.
Really good diving. So
you're supposed to be annoyed by them, Ben. This is the whole point.
It's very effective.
But Buster's like, let me do a really good dive for you, and she's like begging him not to. She's at this point, I think, gets the deal with him and is like, don't do this.
This is what I like. I like that
she gets him.
She gets him, and she's like, you don't need to do anything to impress me. He's sort of, this is like the one movie where he doesn't understand he's already won.
Right.
Like she wants to go on a date with him. She's charmed by him. She likes him. He's winding himself up to prove a point that doesn't need to be proven at this point. But he does this overly extreme dive. He dives so hard that it knocks all of his clothes off.
And then he's it's a little risque. He's searching for his bathing suit. He can't see anything, but you can tell he's nude under the water.
It's well done where he dives in, you see his body go down, you see the suit rise up, you see him come out, there's clear like water in his eyes, he swims over, like dog paddles over to the edge, and then you see the suit floating in the background.
He tries to get a leg up to get out, and then he's like, can't do this,
And basically it's, how do I get out of this pool without becoming a sex offender, right? Well, that's the bit then.
Well, Buster, maybe you shouldn't have done a fancy dive.
Maybe you shouldn't have done a fancy dive.
Plus, your girlfriend is so cute.
Yeah, she's very cute.
So she's like,
I think she's great in this too.
I do too, and
she's really good.
I like the fact that like I think they have
What's the actress's name.
The actress's name is Marceline Day.
Yes.
And she is
she was a bathing beauty. She was right.
Yes. Let's see. She was one of the baby stars, which is another one of these promotional campaigns for cuties.
Was that a Max Sennett thing?
It was the Western Association of Motion Picture Advertisers. It was sort of an It Girl adjacent thing, and it included the baby stars included like Joan Crawford, Mary Astor, Janet Gaynor, like big future names.
My favorite babies.
So like being in that would boost your cred. And then she was in a movie called London After Midnight, which is a classic Lon Chaney movie that is lost.
That's the one we talked about where I made you look up the monster design that's like fucking insane.
It's too insane. It's creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy as shit.
She also did The Jazz Age. I think it was a pretty big Douglas Fairbanks movie back then. But at a certain point, she lived till she was 91 years old.
Hey. Wow. I think they have, just by the nature of this story and the fact that she's, sort of into him from the beginning, they have more kind of conventional romantic comedy chemistry in this than he often does with his women who are sort of at a pedestal that he's running to try to reach, I like that you get to spend time with the two of them actually hitting it off. David?
Yes.
What's a game where no one wins?
The waiting game.
I was thinking about Monopoly. I feel like most people...
It's true. Usually you give up before there's an actual winner. Yes.
How many times have you ever made it to the end of a
Very
Monopoly
few, and I feel like every time we've all been really bummed out.
Absolutely.
Like, yes.
In that sense, Monopoly is kind of the hiring process of board games. It usually leaves you frustrated.
Yep. True.
Relationships fractured.
Right.
But Indeed is sort of the anti-Monopoly.
All true.
The board game, not the principle.
Because Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. They've got Instant Match, where over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US.
The very moment. No lag time.
Candidates you invite to apply are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to US Indeed data.
Indeed.
They do the hard work for you. They show you candidates whose resumes match your job description immediately after you post so you can hire faster. Indeed's hiring platform matches you with quality candidates instantly, and it's the only site where you only pay for applications that meet your requirements.
Right.
Okay?
It's not like you're paying to put like a second hotel on Park Place. Trying to tie it back to Monopoly, the board game.
Very good. Well, you can join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/blank. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/blank. Just go to Indeed.com/blank and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/blank. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed. All right. So they get out of there. She's like, let's go to the beach. But then there's this whole business with the mean guy shows up.
Yes.
In the car. And he's like, I'll drive you home. And then he puts Buster in this like bitch seat in the back.
As it's like torrential downpour.
And then it starts raining.
I mean, he barely lets him get a seat.
He puts him in the trunk, essentially.
But this like tiny bits of just like, you see him sit in the bitch seat, right? And then it cuts to the car finally pulling up to its resting place. Now there's a storm. You see him there. He's flooded. He takes his cap off. And he's trying to scoop the water out with his hat.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Pretty funny stuff. They're inside high and dry. And he's trying to mac in on her. He's trying to He's trying to hone in. He's trying to get Buster out of the way. Buster's all wet. She goes upstairs. Is he doomed? There's this thing also, Griff, where we keep seeing this street cop.
Oh my God.
Who's sort of like making faces at Buster.
Yeah.
So what's the vibe with the street cop?
Well, I think it's like you set up one specific sort of authority figure.
This guy who's just kind of like, that guy's up to no good.
Like, I have my eye on you.
He like recurs in scene after scene.
Yeah. I like him. I think it's a funny dynamic. But it's sort of like versus something like Cops.
Harry Gribben.
Yes. He was a big
he did 140 films in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's always the same thing.
Yeah. Stock company player.
So the street cop hassles him.
No, I'm saying versus something like Cops the Short, which is obviously a masterpiece, but turns like the cops into like an amorphous blob,
body.
Right?
Yes.
I like centralizing it around like one guy who's always going to be the guy on the corner, who's always looking at him askance.
Checking to see if he's goofy.
Yeah.
So Buster's
because this movie doesn't have the disapproving dad. The boss in this film, at MGM is not as much of a villain as usually he has a couple antagonists, right? There's the romantic rival, but then there's also some elder statesman figure, some parental figure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like the cop is filling that role in this. The guy who's just constantly judging him,
but
looking to catch him in the act.
But Buster he goes back to the MGM.
Yeah.
They first dismiss him, but then they send him to cover a celebration in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm. Well, she gets the tip off.
Yeah, right. They're like beat it, and she's like, I heard there's something happening in Chinatown that you could go, film. And he's like, okay,
something's gonna happen.
I'm not gonna fuck it up. Then he immediately puts the camera through the door window, which is funny. And then there's this whole crazy
David, what happens before this? When he's trying to position himself. Yes. There's an organ grinder,
which I think was always it seems like this was always in the pitches for they're like, and there's a bit with a monkey.
Yeah.
Right. Thalberg is like, and when does the monkey come in? He has an organ grinder monkey, right?
Right. Monkeys are funny, which he conceded to. It's the same thing I like about Go West. He's really good with animals.
Yeah. And monkey, look, the monkey's in the little sailor suit.
Monkey always funny.
Cute.
Monkey always funny. But
you feel bad, but also it's fun to see.
Yeah. The Viola Davis thing I always invoke about no actor is more interesting than watching a cat because you can't totally read what they're doing, but there's something fascinating going on at every minute.
Sure.
Buster acts with the sort of behavioral subtlety of watching a wild animal that you cannot totally read. And so when you watch him act with an animal, be it a cow or a monkey, you do feel like they're on the exact same page,
But also, I mean, this monkey, I assume, probably, done 40 pictures. This monkey was cut. The monkey lights a cigarette and is like, oh God.
This monkey was the 4th highest paid star at MGM at the time. But the organ grinder's sort of running this con.
Yes.
Of you fell over, you crushed my monkey, you have to pay me for the dead monkey.
Me for my monkey, right. And
the cop makes him pay, and then immediately the monkey springs back to life, and now the monkey's like his AC, his assistant camera.
The monkey's so cute.
The monkey's so cute.
Put him out.
And then you just got so many good little gags here. I mean, this whole war breaks out, right?
Tong War, which
is the Tong War,
a real thing.
Yes.
The rival factions in Chinatown would sometimes erupt into, crazy, fighting, especially in San Francisco, I think.
This is his biggest sequence where you have this parade that turns into an all-out street war. But you have him at the sidelines cranking his camera, and then the monkey pulls up next to him with a Gatling gun and starts shooting the Gatling gun in perfect timing with him so that it looks like he's firing out of the camera.
Right.
And then he has to stop the monkey from shooting at people.
There's just this one crazy shot where he cuts to the wide of the street.
Yes.
And it's like people are shooting from every window and scattering and running around. And, it's just impressive.
But he goes up to the elevated platform where there's sort of the scaffolding.
Right. Yes.
And then the piece of the scaffolding falls over. And so it sort of turns into a makeshift crane shot where he's craning down into the action. It's this thing where suddenly he's getting the most incredible footage possible. He's right there. And for once, nature is helping him. The environment is helping him.
And his mishaps are not. They're only helping as well. Right.
Right. It's suddenly the power of cinema is on his side.
Yeah.
You think he's killing it. He goes back. He's so excited. It opens up the camera. There's nothing in it.
Yes.
He fucked up. He forgot to load the film.
Right. She gets in trouble for
she
tipping
tipped him off because then none of the other professional cameramen got there in time. She gave him the exclusive tip off, and now she's also in trouble.
They have one last shot.
It's frustrating to fuck up.
Yes.
And it's this, right? It's the boat stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's the final sequence, really.
Well, the asshole goes boating with her.
Yes.
And he capsizes the boat.
Like an idiot. He's showboating. He's going too fast.
Showboating, truly.
Truly. So he smashes into Buster's rowboat, capsizes. Buster rescues her.
Right. But then
it's going around in circles.
Yes.
Yeah,
she's
drowning in the center.
And he swims away.
He swims away like
a
fucking coward. He sucks. Then Buster goes, rescues her, brings her back to the beach, goes to get some supplies.
Yeah, he runs to the drugstore. I don't know. And
then he comes up.
The villain, the cad,
yes,
pretends he rescued her, but the monkey was filming the whole time.
The monkey there learned how to crank the camera.
Good shit.
Is filming the entire time.
And then it turns out like all the footage is there, right?
The monkey swapped the reels.
Right. And so they actually have everything.
They have everything.
So Buster is a success, and there's evidence of his girlfriend's boyfriend being an asshole.
Right, which he goes and screens. They're like, this is the greatest footage we've ever seen. And this guy sucks.
And then he gets a fucking ticker tape parade because they gave those out. New York was easy with ticker tape parades.
Well.
It's actually not for him. It's for,
this is what
it's
I
for
love.
Charlie Lindbergh.
I think this is so much of my love of this movie is I find this ending so poetic.
Go off on the ending.
Buster so rarely wins in his movies, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes he gets to, turn into a gravestone with his wife.
I think even when
he usually wins in that, like, things are going to be okay for Buster.
Yes. But it feels like there's a bit of an indignity in the win, or he's often maybe not like aware of how things have worked out. He still seems oblivious,
Right.
Or, he wins by like the skin of his teeth, but everything still feels a little on edge. The guy's still a little bit under the boot of society, right? This ending is one of the only times where like it feels like he gets to feel good about himself in any movie. And it still is him being oblivious and misunderstanding, but for once in a way that actually makes him happy.
Right.
Right? She tells him, we watched your footage. It's unbelievable. Right. Also, I know this guy's a fucking jerk now. Because he's already, by the way, he hands it in. He goes, he fucking pawns off his camera again.
Right.
Goes back to the tintype. He's thrown in the towel. He thinks he's over.
Yeah.
And she comes in, finds him, is like, they think it's the best footage they ever seen. You won't believe the reception they're going to throw for you.
Right. So he then thinks.
Suddenly, ticker tapes start flying around him.
This must be for me.
Drums. This is the reception she's talking about. They're so happy with me. They're throwing a parade for me. And he starts like, you see his posture change as he walks down the street with her. And he starts like waving sort of like magnanimously to the crowd.
Right.
And then you cut back and realize it's Charles Lindbergh.
Right. Which, of course, the original pitch for this movie was a Charlie Lindbergh thing.
Right. And instead it's a movie in which he basically gets to reap the rewards in his mind of Charles Lindbergh. He gets to feel like Lindbergh for a moment.
It's nice. I think this movie's great. I'm not like fucking Steakhouse over here.
Man, it's just, I hate that the world is set up where there's just always going to be.
I think you're busted out.
These
we watched a lot of them in a short period of time.
And also, and like, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're always going to have the little bit of the vibe of like, man, the world's always usually against you. It's
That's
tough,
the thing.
tough to stick out.
Look,
there.
It's obviously, as if it needs to be said, the reason I love Buster Keaton so much is this is just how I feel all the time.
I know. It's not hard to see how you identify with this boy.
Yes.
I definitely get it.
Right. So I'm just like, these movies are all my worldview.
For sure.
These are all like the indignities of life. The small, tiny indignities of any given moment.
And that it's always going to be kind of the most ridiculous scenario plays out.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't work in your favor.
Correct.
It's frustrating because it feels, I mean, obviously it's exaggerated. It's the movies, but
you look for these tiny little moments.
Things kind of do happen like that.
You look for these tiny little moments of grace. And I think the parade is one of them. And it's rare that I don't know. I just think it's rare that he has a positive misinterpretation of a situation.
Sure.
And especially for that to be the note the movie ends on. Spite Marriage. Box office game. I'm sorry.
Shush.
The monkey's name
game
was Josephine.
Hey.
Nice name.
Famous monkey.
They always are.
She was like the crystal of her day.
Had an illustrious career.
Yeah.
Yes, a very famous monkey. The most famous monkey in motion pictures lived to a grand old age of at least 35 because there's a picture of her celebrating her 35th birthday.
Okay.
Okay. Number one. This movie opens at number 10 on the charts.
Okay.
So number one at the box office, Griffin, is a drama.
Okay.
A nautical or, aquatic drama.
Mutiny on the Bounty?
No. Good guess. It's a William K. Howard film starring Victor McLaglen, and it is called The River Pirate.
Oh, okay.
Sounds pretty fun.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Okay, number 2 at the box office, Griffin, and this is the first time I can do this.
Mm.
The Best Picture winner from the year before. The first winner of Best Picture.
Wings.
It's the film Wings with Clara Bow, of course.
Yes.
And very young Gary Cooper is in that film, among others. Charles Rogers.
Charles Rogers, past and future guest?
No. In fact, Buddy Rogers was his nickname. And in the late 20s and early 30s, he was known as, quote, America's boyfriend.
The only truly silent film to win Best Picture.
Correct. Obviously, Sunrise also wins most unique and artistic picture that year. Right. And there's some people who say that really should be considered the best picture, the first Best Picture winner, because Wings actually won Outstanding Production.
Right.
And Wings, if you've seen it, it's a bit long, but it does have these incredible flying sequences. It's such an impressive movie.
Yes, but those titles feel representative of what they were awarding.
Right.
That having been said, Sunrise rips so fucking
well. Sunrise
is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Amazing. Yeah. And Wings is like an interesting artifact.
An impressive achievement. Yeah, historical document. Yeah.
So that's Wings, number 2. It's been in the box office for about a year.
Big ass hit. Okay.
Big old hit. Number 3 at the box office is an Ernst Lubitsch film. Oh.
1928.
Mainly silent, although it does have some talking sequences. It's a biography of Emperor Paul of Russia. And it stars Emil Jannings, fairly well-known actor.
Yes.
Oscar winner. Who did a lot of like Murnau movies.
But is the Last Laugh, right?
That is a movie, but this movie is The Patriot.
That wasn't my guess. I'm saying that's his most famous starring role, probably.
Oh, yes. The Last Command is a movie he won an Oscar for. He did a lot of whatever. A lot of movies.
Yeah, Last Laugh's a great movie.
It's a Murnau movie. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all these fucking 20s movies. What do you want from me?
I don't know.
But I don't know. It looks like a movie where he's in like big makeup and
cool. Yeah, good ass actor.
But it's Lubitsch.
I know. I should watch it. Silent Lubitsch is a big blind spot for me.
I wouldn't call that a big blind spot.
Big ass blind spot.
It's a big blind spot. Okay, it's number 4. A silent drama. Joseph von Sternberg, another giant.
Yes.
Of early cinema, starring. But this is not a Dietrich movie. It's George Bancroft and Betty Compton.
Okay.
The title refers to a location.
Is it Docks of New York?
The Docks of New York.
Hey, now I've seen that one.
There you go. Is it good?
Yeah, it's fucking rules.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
it's also a tight 76.
Yeah,
maybe I should check it out.
Love to see it.
Variety, of course, called it a corking picture.
It is.
I think I should start busting that in my reviews.
Yeah.
Hey, this Dungeons and Dragons, it's corking.
When Michael Phillips goes on Film Spotting, he always uses the terms that we're finding in Buster reviews of the era, which I love. Michael Phillips, in a way that feels earned, will call movies a pip.
Yeah.
Or
pip
a corker.
Pip is good. I like that a lot.
What can I say? This one's it's a corker.
Number 5, another silent drama. Dorothy McHale.
Okay.
Ralph Forbes. I don't know. It's set in the horse racing world.
It's called Watch Her Go.
It's called The Whip.
Oh.
Because you're... All right. Some other films. You've got a Joan Crawford movie called Our Dancing Daughters, which was about the loosening of youth morals. Launched the career of Joan Crawford. You've got a John Barrymore movie called The Tempest. Oh, no, sorry, just called Tempest, which is a Russian drama, historical drama. You have a pre-code horror movie, the second talkie horror movie released by Warner Brothers following Lights of New York, which is an old classic, called The Terror. Oh, with Boris Karloff? No. Huh. Not with Boris Karloff. So whatever. Maybe there's... I'm curious what The Terror is. I think he also made a movie called The Terror. Might have. It's a pretty good title. And then you've got a drama called Lilac Time. Oh, yeah, the Boris Karloff Terror is from fucking 1963. Well, that's with Jack Nicholson. What was I talking about? The Terror. Oh, I know that. I've heard of that one with Nicholson. Yeah. Guess an English manor house or stalked by a mysterious killer known as the Terror. I don't know. Sounds fucking cool. All right. So obviously, I would say the jewel of these movies that we were talking about this week is The Cameraman. I think Spite Marriage just doesn't quite come together.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's got good stuff in it, but
it's got some bits.
It does feel like he's losing some life force. You feel the defeat in this one.
Yeah.
I think this setup is pretty good. Even if it's not necessarily a perfect Buster setup, it's one of these things. I've seen people say this as we do these episodes, but just like, man, there are so many silent comedies with really good premises that studios should be remaking now because they're not these sacred texts.
Right.
And they're just good comedy setups. And this is one where I was like, this is a good fucking comedy setup premise. And then I realized, basically, Marry Me, the J-Lo, Owen Wilson version, is a less acidic version of this premise. But Buster is a sort of hapless man.
He's a dry cleaner.
He's a dry cleaner.
He has a crush on an actress, a star.
He goes to see her show every single night. He dresses up like a fancy gentleman.
Brings flowers, has a top hat.
Yes, but it's all an act. She is in love with her co-star in the show.
Yes. Lionel Benmore.
Yes.
Good name.
Is a parody of Lionel Barrymore. Takeoff on.
So.
He instead goes for another young woman. And out of
I think for the newer, younger lady too. There's a little bit of a
the blonder, yes. The new starlet, and she, out of spite to earn his jealousy in her mind, decides to marry this man who is constantly hovering around her.
First guy she sees, the guy she assumes. So she, it is kind of similar to Marry Me because she even has like a manager who's like, this is a terrible idea.
Yes.
She has handlers who think it's a bad idea.
Right. Marry Me has the weird element. Look, I watched Marry Me on a plane and it's a perfect plane movie.
Yeah. Marry Me is look, Marry Me is fine.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm just like, there's no way these people have sex.
No.
That's my whole problem with that movie. They just did not have. They had kind of cute friend chemistry.
They have cute friend chemistry.
But they just did not have any romantic chemistry.
No.
And J-Lo can have chemistry with a lot of people. She's pretty charming.
Yes, she can.
And Owen Wilson is more of a specific vibe these days.
Yeah.
Maybe always has been.
Yeah.
But, they just were an odd match.
Yes. But there's also the weird thing in that premise, which is like, he doesn't even know her stuff, really. He gets dragged to the concert by his daughter and his best friend, Sarah Silverman.
Oh yes. Yeah,
and he's holding the sign by accident.
Right. Like he gets past the Marry Me sign.
Right. Yes. It's like a complete sort of chance thing. Whereas what I think is kind of fun in this premise is Buster is her biggest fan.
Yes.
He is getting what in his mind is his greatest dream.
Right.
And then it immediately turns out to be like much more intense than he could ever imagine.
Because it's a spite marriage.
It's a spite marriage. And he is but a pawn in a game he doesn't quite understand.
Let me give you a little context.
Mm-hmm.
Little context. MGM's biggest note after Cameraman is this movie needs to be cheap.
Yeah.
No more overruns, my friend. So they finalize a big script.
Yes.
Thalberg is very, involved. Apparently the first draft had a Cannibal Island on it, and they were like, "We already did that."
Fucking ending as Navigator, yeah.
Except I think, yeah, exactly. It was the same. It was even the final. Crazy.
I know.
I mean, obviously, this movie has a boat and stuff. Like, I can see that they're thinking like, "Oh, the boat runs aground on an island," but it's just the same fucking ending as the Navigator.
And it's another one of these things where you're just like, minute 50, he runs out of spite marriage premise. What happens now? I don't know. We go to a boat. I do boat bits.
Right.
Like, it just felt like when Buster was like out of ideas, he would get in a boat.
For sure.
A boat or a train. And he's like, I can get 20 minutes out of this.
There was a fight over the bridal suite sequence. We can talk about that.
That's the best sequence in the movie.
They wanted to cut it out. And Buster said he talked like a Dutch oven to save that scene. I'm not really sure what that means.
I don't either. But
isn't that when you fart under the sheets?
That is what I think of as a Dutch oven.
Right.
Yes. But I don't think Buster filled a bed with his farts to win over Irving Thalberg.
He walked into Irving Thalberg's office and went...
Or maybe he was like, I have farted so much in this blanket wrapped around me. If you don't keep the scene, I'll
throw it
drop
over your head.
Yeah, exactly. All right. But he did fight for it. There's lots of, frustration at this point between Buster and the executives. Thalberg loved the cameraman. It's not like they don't like the final product.
Right.
So Keaton is like, I fucking proved my point, but they won't give me my control back.
Yeah. But there's, I mean, we've covered stuff like this before, but I just always think about that quote Sam Raimi says about working on the Spider-Man movies, where he's like, I never thought I'd get hired for it.
Yeah.
They hired me for it. I never thought they'd let me do what I want. They let me do what I wanted. Then the sequel comes around. They give me even more leash. They let me do exactly what I want. The movie's even more well-received. And then the third movie comes around, and they're like, okay, we got some rules for you. Suddenly, even though they appreciate what he did and it worked, I think when the stakes get higher, people then start to want to be able to claim credit.
There's money, and more money, more problems. As a certain Notorious B.I.G. once told us.
Yeah, it's also this is the fucking problem with like studio executives.
Notorious B.I.G. because he's in Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Of course,
talking about Notorious B.I.G.
And we all remember that's the funniest thing that ever happened. Buster wishes he could have come up with something that great.
I mean, look, I'm just amazed that Notorious B.I.G. has not shown up in other WB projects.
They should start slotting him.
Yeah, exactly.
Algae Rhythm should start fucking put him in every season of True Detective, retrofitting him into everything in the catalog.
He's in a big fight with Zaslav, and he's been relegated to Nat Geo. No, I can't even do these jokes. That Nat Geo is a Disney anyway. Look, one other thing that's happening, Griff, is there's a lot of gossip because Buster's on the MGM lot now, and apparently he's flirting with the ladies because his marriage is on the rocks.
He
says it's all guff. It's all made up. These gossip columnists, they'd like to say he's flirting with ladies. But
by most accounts, the leading lady in this film, he sort of has an on-off affair with for the next decade.
Correct. Dorothy Sebastian is her name. They certainly had a long thing.
Yes. This is also the movie where his drinking starts really take hold.
But no, the other thing we haven't mentioned is he initially was like, let's do a sound movie.
This is the thing.
And
I
it
had always
gets pared
thought
down to it'll have a sync track, it'll have some sound effects.
I had always incorrectly thought that MGM was the one pushing sound on him. And in fact, he said, I want to make my first sound picture.
Right.
And they said no, because sound was so new and MGM was kind of slowest in the sound race.
They were, because they were the creakiest, most conservative, most classical,
Right, this newfangled modern toy. We don't need this thing. They basically had...
They said it was a fad.
They said it was a fad. Me to no end.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes. They had like one sound kit. So they were like, first of all, someone else claimed it.
Sure. Right.
There's only one sound movie at any given point in time, right? And two, I think internally they were like, the last thing we need is to give Buster Keaton another toy to fidget with. Don't add anything that makes this film more complicated. So the concession was, in post, we can have a synchronized soundtrack with sound effects and music. You can use those to your advantage. He was never really going to use dialogue anyway, but he wanted to be getting this sound live. I think, I have to imagine for him, he's such a technology nut, right? That I think he was interested in it.
Totally.
But I also have to imagine that part of it was, I need to keep up with the times. If I'm going to fight for slapstick comedy to survive, I need to also Ben's got a slapstick. I need to also try to let this thing evolve to the new medium.
Yes.
And as we said, look, people have still done this in a talkie era.
Sure.
He wanted to be there.
You think we should still call movies talkies?
Yeah, I do.
You're like, I'm going to go see the new talkie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. They do talk in it.
It's like a 12-reeler.
The most grueling part of the shoot, the yacht sequence. Apparently, at one point, Buster fell in the water.
Okay.
Came out looking happy, and they were like, the water's freezing. Are you okay? And he said, oh, I always cover myself with goose grease when I have water stuff to do. Goose grease? I don't know what the fuck that is, but he was like, keeps the heat in.
Wow.
Lord knows what he was putting on his body, but may have literally been goose fat, for all I know.
Sure.
But I think generally the shoot was not that complicated.
No.
It did go over budget.
But
it cost $282, so it was cheaper than the Cameraman.
Yes.
And though it got decent reviews and did totally fine at the box office, again, I think maybe not quite the spectacular hit they want from their new star contract guy.
No, and after this, they just promptly say, "Here's the deal: you are an actor in our stable.
Like, that's it, right?
We are slotting you in where we want to." I think the best stuff in the movie is the sort of early days of their marriage. I mean, stuff like obviously the sequence of him getting her into bed when she's drunk. Anything where she sort of makes herself a handful and he is trying to account for her, you know? It's fun to see the woman in a Buster Keaton picture be this high status
and be kind of the stinker,
be the dilemma.
Yeah.
I think that stuff has a little bit of juice.
Yeah, she's kind of mean to him.
She is.
Spite Marriage, I guess. I mean,
it's a great title.
It's kind of a funny title.
Yeah.
And she ends up on the boat, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We don't need to know why. Really.
No, but you feel like, okay, he's really just going back to the old reliables here. David?
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard the bad news.
What's
up? Stomp is closing.
Yeah, I think it closed, even in the East Village.
Even worse news. I do have some good news, though.
You know what replaced it is the Empire strips back.
Yes.
Anyway.
The Star Wars themed burlesque show.
Correct. Yeah.
Anyway, bad news. Stomp is closed. Good news. Stamps is still running.
That's true, because Stamps, with so much of our world digitized or automated, why would you stick to old school mailing and shipping when you've got Stamps.com that can do the hard part for you?
In fact, they're pretty different business models. Stamp's business model was bang on some trash cans to the amusement of tourists.
True.
Right. And Stamp's business model is save you time that you would waste in line at the post office by allowing you to print U.S. postage at home. Make shipping easy.
Look, it's a post office in your office.
Yes.
Postage rates just increased again. Stamps.com has the best discounts in the industry.
Yeah.
Amazing partnerships with USPS and UPS for unbeatable rates, up to 84% off. Plus, Stamps.com automatically tells you your cheapest and fastest shipping options.
Let's make this clear. It doesn't have to be a post office in your office.
No.
It can be a post office in your bathroom. This is the thing. Stamps.com sends you the stuff, and then it's up to you.
That's true. All you need is a computer and a printer. They send you the scale.
Yeah.
You have everything you need to get started.
You can do it on the toilet if you want to.
Okay. If you need a package pickup, you can schedule it through your Stamps.com dashboard. And if you sell products online, they seamlessly connect with every major marketplace and shopping cart.
It's really easy. It's so easy. You could do it and do whatever you need to do in the bathroom at the same time.
Avoid the hassle and get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code CHECK for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code CHECK. Well, let's see. What are some there's the whole sequence on stage where he's like in costume as a soldier.
That part's fun, right? Because
it's kind of funny.
Right. He's seen the show so many times that he can sub in.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's got the silly beard on.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. What else? What else happens in
Let me scrub through this
I'm scrubbing too.
Yeah, we're both scrubbing.
There's them in...
It is the nice thing about doing these movies is you can just fucking have it up on your screen, scrub through and remind yourself of the things.
It takes her to dinner.
That is when the sound effects do not work at all. The laughing, it's psychotic.
Yes.
It made me feel like I was having a mental breakdown. And I kind of am.
Yeah.
She gets like too drunk at dinner and there's a lot of hijinks there. And then they just end up on a boat.
Yeah.
It is kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, he hops into a cab.
Yes. That drops him at the docks.
Yeah.
And that's how he ends up on the boat. But because the guy was shooting at
I do also
someone.
feel like this movie has more title cards. Like there's more dialogue. There's more sort of like banter.
Yeah.
I don't know if that, is just how the times were changing.
Yeah, I mean, like 45 minutes in, the Barrymore figure tells him, she's marrying you to make me angry.
Right. They get in a fight, I think, at that point. And that's honestly like when he gets like forced into, like he drives his car, the cab into the ocean, and then like a boat picks him up.
Yeah.
And then she's on the boat.
Yeah.
And as is the jerky guy. The Ben Moore.
Right. Then it just becomes a different movie.
Then it's just boat movie. There's a whole thing with sails. There's a whole thing with like a flooding room where he has to get the water out of the room.
Yeah.
And it ends with a bunch of bonks.
Yeah.
There's a bit with the chef. There's this whole sort of like set that has like a staircase that I feel like I wanted more from.
Look, I want
like
more
hijinks
from
like,
all of this.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tiny little thing, but I like the little dog he has, the sad-eyed dog that looks kind of like him, the little
Sure.
toy. He does this sort of little puppetry routine with.
I mean, it's possible it was just kind of like also a little busted out, but I do just think it's not as clean premise for some reason. And so, you know.
No, this is him getting everything taken away from him, you know? This is him kind of giving up.
There's just not enough juice.
No.
Not enough juice.
No, and you know, he the movies he makes after this at MGM, as we said, they're the 3 Durante comedies. What No Beer is the end of the run. There's Sidewalks of New York, Free and Easy. I mean, there's like a whole run.
Sure.
About 8 of them, I think. The MGM talkie pictures that come after this. Most of them are hits. He remains
hits,
but bankable without really remaining very relevant.
I think he just. Well, we have some context on this sort of like the fallout of this movie.
Yeah.
MGM. One problem is, of course, sound comes in.
Yes.
So suddenly all of Keaton's movies make less money generally, right? Like he's just old news. I mean, this is, you know, this happens to everybody. Whatever idea MGM had for him pumping out films crashes into that and just doesn't work. Like, so he's not making movies. The only movie he makes in 1930 is this film Hollywood Review, which is just like every MGM contract player does like a bit.
The scene in Babylon where they have
they're doing Singing in the Rain
is from this.
Yes.
And Buster's one of the guys doing Singing in the Rain, and then they basically give him one segment to do a slapstick routine.
He does a Princess Raja routine, whatever that is.
Sure.
You know, Thalberg at a certain point steps aside like as his overseer. He's doing other stuff. And that is a point that this new guy called Weingarten comes in. He's the one who's like, you are now an actor.
Yeah.
So yeah, Free and Easy, like you said. A movie called Doughboys.
Yes, Doughboys is kind of fun.
I assume that's sort of a war comedy.
I'd argue that's the best of the talkies.
I've definitely seen the poster where he has the helmet, like, you know, he looked where he's a doughboy. I've never seen the movie, obviously.
Yes. And he's Spoon Nation in that movie, I think. Ultimately, that's the side he's fighting on.
Right. He's not in the Burger Brigade.
He's not in the Burger Brigade. But you know, you just read these accounts of like Cedric and people who are just like, you just saw him on set sulking.
Right. And drinking.
Yes.
Drinking himself to sleep.
He would drink a full bottle of whiskey.
You don't want to do that.
Every night.
FYI.
Yes.
Drink yourself to sleep. If you're drinking yourself to sleep, maybe evaluate what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I think you get a better rest.
Oh, sure. Right.
Yeah.
Of course. You're right.
And you wake up feeling great.
Yes.
You wake up feeling so good.
And you don't need more the next day.
No.
The nadir for him is Sidewalks of New York.
Right. That one, he just said everything about this was a fucking turkey. I saw it on paper. I mean, this thing of him understanding, like, I've been studying audiences my entire life, right? It's in my fucking
the setup doesn't make
bones.
sense.
Right. He's like, the setup doesn't work. People aren't going to buy into it. Execs are trying to pitch him on what's funny. And he just was like, I can't fight this thing. I can't fight City Hall. I know this thing's going to suck. There's nothing I can do to prevent it.
Yeah.
I think Sidewalk of New York leads into the Durante run, basically.
He pisses everyone off so much that Louis Mayer is like, fine, fuck you. You are now second banana to Jimmy Durante.
Right.
He does
Durante
a few of those.
is the plot driver in the movies, and he's kind of like the dumb best friend.
Right. And when making what? No beer?
Yes.
He
ironically a movie about prohibition.
Right. He gets so shit-faced that he like falls asleep on set one night, and like, you know, when the film wraps production, MGM fires him.
It is the first time his alcohol gets in the way of his ability to shoot a day.
Yes.
Yes.
So
he
gets fired.
The story's even kind of worse in that he like stays up all night drinking, cannot get to sleep. Then he's so tired, he's like drinking a bunch of coffee and nothing's jolting him awake. And he's like, I've tried every like caffeine and stimulant. Maybe I should have another beer. So then he has a beer on top of it in the morning and he passes out and they cannot wake him up. He's there in his dressing room.
That is the final straw.
Right.
That instant.
And they ride that movie out. His contract is
then
set.
he's fired. And because of that rep that he's built up for himself, no one else wants him.
Yes.
No other studio. He goes to all of them. They don't want him. So he starts making the educational pictures shorts.
Yes.
Makes 16 of them. He obviously has more control, but the budgets are low.
Yeah.
Have you've seen some of those,
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah, they're okay. I mean, it's him back to doing it's the form of what he should be doing, but he's kind of broken at this
he's
point.
Really in a valley.
Because he doesn't meet Eleanor Keaton until after this. And Eleanor Keaton, who's his final wife, who he's with until his death, is the one who kind of brings him back to life.
In 37, he goes back to MGM as a gag man.
Yeah.
Works with the Marx Brothers, works with Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy. Biggest collaborator is Red Skelton.
Yes.
Who I don't know very well, but Red Skelton apparently remade The Cameraman as a film called Watch the Birdie.
Yes, he also remade Spite Marriage. He remade both of these
called
movies.
I Do'd It.
Yes. It's a wild,
not a great title.
No, it's a wild thing that there's a 10-year arc of him getting signed to MGM, being one of their biggest stars, bottoming out, going to like a fifth-rate company, making a bunch of shorts, and within that same 10-year period, comes back, is writing gags for $100 like a week for MGM to let other people remake his films.
Movies worse. Yes.
Right. And by all accounts, he was sort of like I think he was sad, but he like in a deep existential way, just about his life.
But he was stable.
He was stable, and he also was just like, look, I never had an ego about this. I like that I'm just actually getting to write gags again.
Right.
I think to a certain degree, he preferred this to the end of his run starring in movies for MGM. Because it's like, they're just slotting me in, I don't get to be funny.
Right.
He prefers getting to sit down and come up with comedy and hand it to someone else than having someone give him shitty jokes that he has to let die on screen.
He goes to Columbia, does some two-reelers for them.
Yes.
Some people say his best sound work is done there, even though those are also minor.
Yeah.
Then he turns into old Keaton. That's when he's in the good old summertime in Limelight. He's in Sunset Boulevard for a minute. Where
he's in the poker game.
Right, where he's like this sort of venerable figure at this point doing small supporting work.
But the other thing is, I think around the 1950s, his films start getting seriously reevaluated. There's a real serious reappraisal. He gets sort of like lashed onto by the critical elite.
Yes.
And he's also on TV a lot.
Yes,
now.
this is the whole thing.
Yeah,
TV needs time. TV needs stuff.
Yes,
brand new. He can play to a live audience. He had a Buster Keaton comedy show.
He had 2 different shows,
and then something called the Buster Keaton Show.
Both of which have really good shit in them.
I bet they do.
You can find a lot of it online.
There's also a Donald O'Connor starring biopic.
That film is dog shit.
Yes, that I think is very accurate.
Inaccurate, I would say. You're missing the in part of accurate.
He also wins an honorary Academy Award at the end of the 50s.
They give it to him before they give it to Chaplin, right? Am I wrong about this?
That's a fair question. And David Sims, host of Blank Check, co-host, I'm going to find the answer for you right now by clicking here and looking at the answer, which is you are correct.
Thank you. Because
Chaplin won an honorary award in 1972.
That's the big thing, is that even though Chaplin sort of stayed relevant for longer in terms of his current work, Buster started being taken more seriously sooner.
Yeah.
In sort of film history. And this is the period where he remarries.
Not a spite marriage.
Not a spite marriage, a marriage of true love. But he would do like television commercials. There's a great Buster Keaton Alka-Seltzer commercial.
Yeah, he did also some industrial films.
Yes. Now, all of this might sound sort of depressing for a guy who was at one time one of the greatest living artists in film, right?
Yeah.
But there's something to the simplicity of, in his final years, being able to like TV commercials gave him an audience, but it also was just this format that allowed him to just be like, you have a minute, come up with something funny. People started giving him a little more space to, in less prestigious frameworks, just do his thing. And it felt like there was an appreciation. He died, I think, feeling valued.
Right. He died quite suddenly of lung cancer.
His last film was A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which he's actually a lot of fun in.
Funny in that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but is celebrated as a legend on death. It's not like he's a forgotten star, you know?
And then in 2023, Blank Check did a miniseries called Podcast Junior, The Final Indignity.
2 things to do.
Yeah.
First is the box office came for Spite Marriage, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, when did that film come out? Spite Marriage came out in March 1929.
Okay.
And so is it even on the charts here? No. But so we'll just do when it came out.
Okay.
Sad, of course, that it's not even on the charts. But number 1 at the box office is another Clara Bow picture.
Okay.
Ooh.
It's not It.
No, it's neither It nor Wings.
Okay.
It is about a fun thing you could do with her, and it's, of course, it's her first talkie, and it's the one of the only films directed by a woman in that era. What woman might have directed
thing
it?
You could do with her?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a terrible clue. But it's directed by, come on, who's a woman who might have directed Clara Bow?
Is it Arzner?
Dorothy Arzner, the great Dorothy Arzner. It's Clara Bow and Frederick March, who had a great long career.
It's called A Day in the Park.
It's called The Wild Party.
Oh, sure.
Classic.
Yeah.
Her talkie debut. You know, she of course is sort of like John Gilbert supposedly had a high voice, right?
Yes.
Later in life, later in Hollywood history, they're sort of like, that wasn't the problem.
No.
His voice was fine. Clara Bow supposedly had a thick accent, kind of like a New Yorkie accent or whatever. And that was the initial problem. But it's like, again, it's later people are like, no, that wasn't an issue. It's just, you know, whatever.
It's funny. I do feel like that was more, in theory, that should have been more of an issue for Buster than it was, but no one talks about it that way.
Yes.
Because his voice was very much not what you would have expected, but yet those talkie pictures did okay.
And I believe the sequence in Babylon that is sort of the, you know, the college film that's being made is kind of going off of, because Clara Bow really struggled with the microphones, and they made like a sort of fishpole microphone so she could move around.
Okay.
Apparently the microphones kept exploding.
Hey.
We had a lot of problems back then. Okay, number 2. The Best Picture winner. The second Best Picture winner.
The second Best Picture winner. The first talkie to win Best Picture.
Yes.
You just watched it.
I did.
It was a recent watch. It was one of your blind spots?
I'm done.
But was this one that you just recently plugged?
Yeah.
Okay, and does this one suck?
Yeah, it's uninteresting. It's mostly a technical.
Give me the genre.
Musical.
It's a Broadway Melody?
The Broadway Melody.
Yeah.
Which is basically just kind of like a clip show of a lot of different numbers.
Sure.
The Broadway Melody, this is the Best Picture winner. Okay, number 3 at the box office. Ooh, good name. It's let's see, it's a
maybe one of the modern studios should do that with like TikTok. Like they should make a movie that's just big budget remakes of the 100 most popular TikToks and put it together. The TikTok
that sounds like something like Algae Rhythm would suggest.
The TikTok review.
All right, this is a Wallace Beery film.
Okay, it's not a Wallace Beery wrestling picture.
No, it's not a wrestling picture, I don't think. It actually has the subtitle or the alternate title, Tong War.
Oh.
To sort of draft off of the cameraman here.
Yeah.
So it's also kind of a gangster movie set in Chinatown.
Okay,
and
so I'm guessing it's called Underworld Tong War.
It is called
Resident Evil Tong War. Chinatown Tong War?
It's called Chinatown Nights.
Oh, okay.
Not bad.
Tong War.
Number 4 at the box office is a silent romance.
Okay.
Starring Gary Cooper and directed by Victor Fleming.
Good
one
people.
of the most famous filmmakers who ever lived.
Yes.
About a man who heads out west in 1840 looking for adventure and meets a group of mountain men who take him into the mountains to trap beavers and cats. And then he meets a beautiful Mexican woman and they fall in love.
I'm guessing
and
it's
he becomes torn between his love for her and his desire for traveling.
Okay. Thank you for finishing, because that's going to change my guess of the title.
Here's one more thing.
Yeah.
This is a pre-code film.
Okay.
And you see Gary Cooper nude.
Really?
I think you just see his butt, but he washes in a river.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty cute.
What if he flashes dick?
Yeah, there's a 5-minute unbroken shot of Gary Cooper's flaccid penis.
I'm guessing
just swinging in the wind.
I'm guessing this film is called Kiss Me or I'm Gonna Travel.
It's called Wolf Song.
Fuck.
Kind of a cool name.
Yeah.
Number 5 at the box office. It is a sports drama.
Okay.
Apparently, John Wayne had a minor role in it.
Which
very
sport?
young John Wayne. I don't know. This film is completely lost.
Okay.
And it is about the kind of establishment you might visit in 1929 because alcohol is banned.
The gym.
It's called Speakeasy.
Oh, okay.
So that's the box office for that. And then now, I mean, I think it's time for our Buster list.
I think so too.
I don't think we have anything else to do. You know what we have to do? Order lunch.
Oh,
Because we got another episode to do.
we do. We have to do a commentary.
What do you want?
I don't know. I'm hungry. Something fast.
Zah.
Let's do our rankings first.
Yes.
Okay.
Buster Keaton rankings.
Yep.
Do you want to go top to bottom or bottom to top? I always forget.
Let's go bottom to top.
Okay.
David, you go first.
Okay.
I have my list locked in.
So
I'm
12
just
films
thinking.
here.
Yeah.
Number 12, I have College.
Yep.
Number 11, I have Spite Marriage.
Uh-huh.
Number 10, I have Go West.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the good zone now, though. Number 9, I have Three Ages.
Yeah.
Number 8, I have The Navigator.
Mm-hmm.
7, Battling Butler.
Mm-hmm.
6, Our Hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like we're getting into the masterpiece zone.
Yeah.
Number 5, Steamboat Bill Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Seven Chances.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, The Cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, The General.
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock Jr. number 1.
Uh,
That's my list, and I'm sticking to it. Unless you criticize it, in which case I might fold like laundry.
I mean, it's the question of objective favorite versus
Go for your heart, man.
objective best versus. Okay, I'm saying it's number 12, Spite Marriage.
Wow, you have it all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, it's Spite Marriage versus College, right? I mean, those are the two.
So College at 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Battling Butler at 10.
Okay. Oh, pretty low.
Go
Not
West at
boxing,
9, although I do think Go West deserves some credit.
You like the cow.
I like the cow a lot. I think you can't oversell how good the cow is in the movie.
Okay.
Number 8, Three Ages.
Yeah.
Number 7, The Navigator.
Okay.
Number 6, Seven Chances.
Oh, you have a little lower than me. Sure.
Yep. Number 5, Our Hospitality.
Yeah.
Now, this is the question of where do I
the
rank
big 4?
Where do I rank The Cameraman within this?
I don't know. You can put it number 1 for all you want.
I'm not going to put it at number 1. I'm going to put it at number 3. So I'm going to put The General at number 4.
Yeah.
Cameraman at number 3. Steamboat Bill Jr. at number 2. Sherlock Jr. number 1.
I love it.
The juniors have it.
I think we have fairly similar lists.
Yeah. But I think that top 4 is kind of impeccable. And then I think everything but College and Spite Marriage I highly recommend watching.
Basically agree.
And I think those are for completists only.
Yeah. Three Ages is the only one where I would kind of be like, that's more one you can get to once you've watched a lot of Buster and you kind of want to see him putting it together early.
But the good bits in it are unbelievable.
Good bits.
You're not going to watch it and not enjoy it.
We did a silent film star on Blank Check.
We did. They said it couldn't be done.
They did say it couldn't be done. The big wigs, the fat cats,
my
the
internal
island
voices.
banker. yeah. Your imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Ben, what's your favorite Buster?
What is my favorite Buster? Damn.
Okay, well.
Poindexter?
That's funny.
You feeling hot?
That's funny.
Hot?
Ben, are you really so steamed over this steak? It's just like a black cloud over your head.
Fucking piss me off. No, damn. I guess it's gonna have to be Sherlock Jr.
It's the best.
It's the best one.
It's best. It's just perfect.
There's other contenders, but that feels
That's
like
the perfect thing.
Yeah, and I got to experience that in a theater.
Yeah, that is cool.
With a crowd.
A hot crowd too. They were laughing. Ben's wearing a Gummo shirt, by the way.
He is wearing a Gummo shirt. So our Buster series is done.
Yeah.
And you guys know what is next. We're going right into it. It's Park Chan-wook. You guys voted for him.
You voted for him.
So here he is.
The people's champion.
After defeating Bong Joon-ho by 1 whole vote, he will have a miniseries starting in June and stretching all the way through the end of August.
And hey, here's the thing I don't like.
Start of September. What?
Our listeners on the internet assuming that we're just going to go straight from Park Chan-wook into Bong Joon-ho because he lost by 1 vote. This is a weird assumption you folks have made.
They kind of dropped that at a certain point. There was a moment, they're still getting some of that.
Well, they were like, well, you got to do both. We're like,
we won't be doing both.
In fact, we don't got to do shit.
And for any sleuths out there that look up the menu, it was expensive to begin with, the restaurant. Okay, I was celebrating a
Unfortunately,
special occasion.
Ben, we can't cut it out because it's like peppered throughout the episode.
The arc of this episode is Ben realizing he starts it as, I hate these snooty rich people, and then realizing everyone's going to come away from this episode saying, how much money did he spend on a steak?
You had...
Is Ben the villain in a Buster Keaton movie?
You went to what is, I would say, a fancy restaurant in New York City, and you got charged fancy.
I feel like you're the Buster Keaton character who tried to play high society and got hoisted by your own petard.
Big time.
Yeah.
All right, well.
It's funny and relatable.
Let's get something cheap.
For lunch?
Yeah, okay, what do you want?
Dollar
Dumplings.
pizza. Dumplings.
You could do better than dollar pizza. Dumpling sounds all right.
One loaf of Wonder Bread.
Just beans. Just a big can of beans.
A communal can of beans with one spoon.
We'll set up a little fire in the middle here.
Yeah.
We'll just roast it. Yeah. All right, I got to pee.
Okay.
I know I end a lot of episodes that way, but it's nonetheless true.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else
any more that you want to say as we push Buster
in terms of wrapping stuff up. No, I hope you've all enjoyed watching these. It's been it's been truly so heartening to me to see people watch these movies.
I agree.
I was worried that even if listeners stayed on, they would stay on just to listen to us describe them and not actually watch them. And my favorite thing is seeing people go like, oh, I laughed watching this. I found it funny. And when Ben and I saw Sherlock Jr., you said to me, Ben, you were like, there's this whole world of comedy I've just never opened myself up to.
Yeah. And I'm way more open to silent movies as well as just dipping back more often and looking at classic film.
And I just think, as I've made this point probably too many times across the last 6 weeks, I think you see the influence of these films, these 12 movies we discussed, ripple directly into our world today. You know, the DNA of so much of commercial genre filmmaking is in the things that Buster sort of crystallized, and especially our language of comedy. It's one of my favorite artists of all time.
Right, and I think he's pretty good, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, him, Fozzie Bear.
Yeah. Anyone else?
That was probably the two.
Those two.
Greatest comedic idols, Buster and Fozzie. Thank you all for listening. It means a lot. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media and helping to produce the show. Thank you to Joe Bone and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. After some demand requests, we made a shirt available of Pat's design that was so good for this miniseries.
Yes.
So,
we'll be putting that out.
There'll be a pre-order window. Yes. Keep your eyes open for that. It's probably on for a little while now. Thank you to AJ McKee and Alex Barron for our editing, JJ Birch for our research, Lane Montgomery, and the Great American Novel for our theme song. Go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon, Blank Check special features, where we go through film series and other bonus stuff. If you haven't listened to the Dana Stevens Shorts episode and you're ever going to give our Patreon a shot, even if only for 1 month, I highly recommend that one. And we're finishing up our Planet of the Apes series right now, getting ready to do People's Champion, March Madness winner, Ocean's 11, which should be ring-a-ding-ding, a lot of fun. We also just constantly want to remind people there's the free membership option on Patreon right now where you can sign up. Every 10 days, we unlock an episode from 3 years ago. We're unlocking all our 2020 Patreon content, and all the 2019 content is unlocked. At some point in the future, you'll be able to also get a private RSS feed for the free episodes. But in the meantime, you can sign up, get notifications, all of that.
We're in the middle of a Toy Story.
We're in the middle of Toy Story. Deep pandemic Toy Story.
There's
early
good stuff.
Lockdown Toy Story. There's good stuff. Yeah.
For sure.
You want to hear me go off about 4 movies I'm almost sexually attracted to? A perverse obsession?
What is he talking about?
The Toy Story franchise?
All
right. Tune in next week for the beginning of Park Chan-wook.
Yep. We're doing his first 2 films, My Moon is the Sun's Dream and Trio, which are very hard to find.
Yes.
So we're just kind of bundling them together.
Right. And then after that, they're all 1 movie per episode. We're back to singles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye forever. And as always, I'm holding up an intertitle card that says The End.
There's not like these movies suck.
Oh, you didn't like Cameraman?
No.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm with you on Spite Marriage.
I didn't like Cameraman though for a
Save it
very
for the
personal.
Save it for the mic.
Yeah, you got to save that for the mic.
All right.
You got to take here.